I stood at the back of the church. Everyone else was seated. His co-workers, his childhood friends, even his mistress here front row. But me, his wife of 22 years? There wasn't a single seat saved, not even a glance my way. So I did the unthinkable. I reached into my purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper and walked straight to the altar. Everyone froze. And then I spoke. This isn't just Mark's funeral. This is my goodbye too. And I brought something to read. I unfolded the paper. My will. Because if they were going to bury him without honouring me, then I was going to bury them, in truth. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? You want to know how I got there? How I ended up standing at my husband's funeral reading a will that would change everything? Let me take you back. My name is Olivia Kent. I met Mark when I was 26. I was fresh out of grad school, living in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates and a cat that wasn't even mine. Mark was older, polished, confident, the kind of man who walked into a room and made you feel like everything was going to be okay. And for a while, it was. He'd take me out to rooftop dinners, surprise me with weekend trips. He said things like, "You have a mind I want on my team for life." Not, "You're beautiful," not, "You're hot," but smart. I liked that. We got married 2 years later. People said we were perfect. I believed them. But somewhere in year 8, maybe 9, something shifted. He started travelling more. I started staying quiet more. Then came the lies, subtle ones, like the meeting ran late, or my phone died, or I never got that text. And then came Jenna. Jenna was his assistant, or executive coordinator, whatever that means. 25. Hair like a shampoo commercial, laugh like a sitcom actress. She called him M in emails I wasn't supposed to see. I found the first message by accident. He left his iPad unlocked one night while showering. It said, "Dinner was perfect. Can't stop thinking about that kiss." I didn't confront him. Not right away. Instead, I started documenting. I printed emails, took screenshots, hired a quiet PI with a neck tattoo and an attitude problem. And what I found? He was rewriting his will, with Jenna's name on it, not mine. That's when I stopped being the quiet wife. I became the strategist. Over the next few months, I played the part, the doting wife, the supportive partner, smiling at galas, holding his hand at charity events. But behind closed doors, I was rewriting my own will, not the legal kind, the legacy kind. I bought a small property out in Vermont, put it in my name only. I started a scholarship fund in my mother's name, quietly. I cut off every joint account and opened a new one he didn't know about. By the time he got sick, I'd already emotionally moved out of the marriage. He was diagnosed in September, pancreatic cancer, fast-moving. Funny thing was, Jenna didn't know how to care for a dying man. She posted inspirational quotes and called his meds confusing. I showed up with soup and silence. He said to me one night, his voice thin and shaking, "You were always the only real thing in my life." I wanted to believe that. But love without loyalty is just manipulation in a pretty suit. He died on a cold Tuesday morning. 3 days later, Jenna posted a photo of herself in black lace with the caption, "Forever in my heart, M." I didn't comment. I just blocked her and kept planning. The funeral was held at St. Mary's, the same place we got married. Except this time I wasn't in white. I wasn't even on the guest list. No one called me about the seating. His brother, the one who once asked me for a $10,000 loan, acted like I didn't exist. Jenna sat where I should have sat, smiled at the camera like a widow. And I? I stood at the back in black velvet and pearls he never noticed when I wore. When the priest finished, they opened the floor for final remarks. Jenna got up, read a poem, sniffled on cue. Then she sat. Silence. No one looked at me, so I walked, heels clicking, eyes following. I stood at the altar. "My name is Olivia Kent," I said. "I was Mark's wife. the one he met before the yachts and assistants and custom suits. They stared. I didn't blink. And while I wasn't given a seat here today, I brought something else. I reached into my purse. This is my will, and unlike his, mine includes everyone in this room. Then I unfolded it and began to read. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't need to. The silence in that church was so loud my words sliced through it like glass breaking on tile. This is my will, I said again. It's not legally binding, but it is spiritually final. And then I read. To Jenna Carter. I paused. Every head turned, her cheeks flushed. She tried to smile, but her lip twitched. You get nothing, except the memory of a man you never truly knew. You had his lies, his attention, and his bank account. But I had his soul, at least until he sold it for flattery and youth. A gasp from the second row. I hope your heels hurt and your dress creases, because mourning is not measured in mascara streaks. I looked at her. She blinked rapidly, and for once she didn't post it on Instagram. To his brother, Alan Kent. The man who'd begged me for money while claiming to be family. You get no part of the estate, but I did leave you something, in the church foyer, a manila envelope. Inside is every text you sent me begging for bail money and hiding your DUI. I've also forwarded it to your current employer, because I know you listed me as a reference. He stood up, red-faced, like he might walk out. I tilted my head. Don't go yet. You're in the next section too. He sat. To the board members of Kent Strategies. Ah, yes. His company. The man you praised for his business brilliance. He plagiarized his first investor pitch from my graduate thesis, word for word. I still have the document. Check the timestamp. Without me, he was just charm and cufflinks. Half the room was now murmuring. I wasn't done. To my husband, Mark Kent, I felt my hands tremble, just a little. But I kept reading. You get peace. Something you couldn't find when you were alive. You also get my forgiveness, but not my forgetfulness. You broke your vows before your body broke down, and even in death you let them erase me. I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them again, steady and cold. But I rebuilt myself in secret. While you were busy dying in Jenna's arms, I was learning to live without you. I looked up. There was not a single dry eye in that church, but it wasn't sadness. It was discomfort. The kind of ache that comes when someone finally tells the truth you've all been pretending isn't there. Then I read the final paragraph. And lastly, I raised my voice, just enough. To myself, Olivia Kent. I placed a hand on my chest. I leave the house by the lake, the savings I hid, the name I carried with grace, and the right to begin again. I folded the paper. I came here without a seat, but I will leave with my dignity. And with that, I turned and walked out. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't look back. Because the story wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. Outside the church, the air hit me like a slap, sharp and cold. But I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I didn't cry. Not out of strength, but because I had already cried it all out. In silence. In empty bedrooms. In quiet cars after gala nights where he'd call me by someone else's name. What happened inside that church was only the beginning. Because I had one more truth to release. A truth they weren't ready for. It started a year before Mark died. I found out I wasn't his only betrayal. There were bank transfers I didn't recognise, small amounts at first, then thousands, to an account in the name of M. Hartwell. At first I thought it was Jenna, but Jenna's last name was Carter, so I hired a digital investigator. 3 weeks later, I got the email. M. Hartwell, Melissa Hartwell, Tam daughter, age 19. I froze. 19, which meant she was born 3 years after our wedding. Mark had a daughter, and he never told me. Worse, He had quietly funded her life behind my back. Private school, a trust fund, even a car, registered under a shell company. My knees buckled that night when I read the full report, not because he had a child with someone else, but because I realised that I had been grieving a lie for over 2 decades. I didn't contact Melissa. Not then. She didn't choose to be born into betrayal. But I did prepare something for her. Something no one expected. A letter, written by hand, on real paper. And when I left the church after the funeral, I didn't go straight home. I went to a quiet cafe near her college campus. The same cafe listed on her Instagram as her thinking spot. She was there, alone, headphones in. She looked like him, but softer, less guarded. I walked up, gently placed the envelope on the table and whispered, "Read it when you're ready." Then I walked away. The letter said this: "Dear Melissa, you don't know me, but I know a little about you. Your father never told me you existed. I found out on my own, long after I should have known. I want you to understand something. None of this is your fault. Your mother may have lied. Your father definitely did. But you were just a child. I'm not writing to destroy your idea of him. I'm writing to protect your future, because in his silence, he may have left you confused. And I won't let confusion become your inheritance. I don't want your trust fund. I don't want revenge. But if you ever want the truth, I have it. Every photo, every timeline, every document. And a version of him you never got to meet, the one who smiled at me like I hung the moon, before he let it fall. The truth is heavy, but it will set you free. When you're ready, find me. Olivia Kent." 3 days passed. Then I got an email. Subject: "Hi, Olivia." No message. Just one attachment. A selfie of Melissa holding the letter, tears in her eyes, and a line written on the paper in her handwriting. "I want to know everything." And that's when the real fallout began. Because I didn't just give her the story, I gave her the receipts, documents, photos, timeline, bank transfers, and Melissa, well, she wasn't quiet like me. She went public. She posted a photo of Mark holding her as a baby with a caption, "My father's legacy was silence. I choose the truth." It went viral. The press came knocking. The board of Kent Strategies called an emergency meeting. And suddenly, the polished image of Mark Kent, loving husband, generous executive, loyal friend, cracked like cheap porcelain. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't dance on his grave. Because for me, this was never about revenge. It was about release. It was only 2 weeks after the funeral when I got the invitation. A glossy envelope sealed in gold foil, with my full name printed in calligraphy. "Olivia Kent, you're cordially invited to the Mark Kent Memorial Foundation Gala." The nerve. A gala. To celebrate a man who had erased me. Organised by the same woman who didn't save me a seat at his funeral, Jenna Carter, and funded, no doubt, by the same hush money he'd siphoned from our joint accounts. But I didn't tear it up. I didn't throw it away. I put it in my purse, and I RSVP'd yes. Because I knew something Jenna didn't. Melissa was going too. The event was held at the Grand Belmont, a place I had chosen myself years ago for one of Mark's company anniversaries. A marble floor, a string quartet, champagne towers, all pretending nothing was rotten underneath. I walked in, wearing a navy silk gown that I hadn't touched in years, one he once said made me look like a senator's wife. I wore it now not for him, but for me. For the version of myself that deserved to be seen, not hidden behind his lies. The moment I stepped in, I saw her, Jenna, draped in black sequins, whispering with some investors, her voice high and practiced. She hadn't seen me yet, but Melissa had. She walked in 5 minutes later, in a cream blazer over a satin top, hair slicked back, eyes sharp. She walked like she owned her truth. I watched from across the room as she walked right up to Jenna. No hesitation, no fear. The music was still playing, glasses still clinking, but you could feel the air shift. Melissa leaned in and said something I couldn't hear. Jenna's eyes widened. Then Melissa did something I'll never forget. She reached into her purse and handed Jenna a white envelope. Not flashy, not dramatic, just quiet justice. Jenna opened it and froze. Inside were printed copies of bank transfers from Mark's personal accounts to hers, all dated before his separation from me was even filed. Jenna looked up, pale. Melissa smiled, not cruel, but calm. Then she turned and walked straight toward me. We met by the dessert table. She stopped, folded her arms and said softly, "Thank you for telling me the truth." I nodded. "I owed you that much." She looked down, then back up. "You know, he used to call me his secret piece, like I was the part of his life that made him feel young again." She gave a sad little laugh. "But it wasn't peace. It was just hiding." I reached out and touched her arm gently. "You deserved more than secrets." "So did you," she whispered. That night, Melissa and I didn't leave together. We didn't hold hands or cry in a bathroom stall like some drama scene. We just stood beside each other for a moment, surrounded by people pretending everything was fine. And for once, we weren't pretending. After the gala, something shifted in the world. People started talking, articles were written. Legacy or lie, the quiet collapse of the Kent image. Jenna disappeared from social media for a while. The foundation was suspended for financial restructuring. And Mark's old friends, they stopped saying his name like it was a brand. As for me, I started writing, not out of revenge, not for money, but because I wanted my story told by me, not whispered through gossip or hidden behind men's shadows. Melissa helped me publish it online under my real name, Olivia Kent. It was titled The Wife at the Back of the Room. And the first line was, "They didn't save me a seat at my husband's funeral, so I stood and gave them my truth." It had been 4 months since the funeral, since the will, since the gala. I thought the chapter was closed. I thought I could breathe again, build again, maybe even love again, if I ever got brave enough. But then, someone knocked on my door. Not my front door. My lake house door. The one no one but Melissa knew about. I had just finished watering the ferns when I heard it. 3 slow knocks. I opened the door cautiously, unsure of what kind of closure still had the nerve to show up. A man stood there, early 60s, grey beard, navy coat, worn briefcase in his hand. He smiled gently. "Mrs. Kent?" I blinked. "Yes?" "My name is Dr. Henry Wells. I was Mark's therapist." My chest tightened. I hadn't even known Mark had a therapist. I stepped aside slowly. "Come in." He walked in respectfully, sat at the edge of the guest chair, and waited until I sat across from him. He opened the briefcase and took out a brown leather journal. "This belonged to Mark. He gave me written permission to deliver it to you, if he passed." I didn't speak. I just stared. "He started therapy 6 months before the cancer diagnosis," Henry said. "He was struggling, not just with the affair, but with legacy, identity, his own shame." I clenched my jaw. Now he feels shame. Henry didn't defend him, didn't argue. He simply placed the journal in my hands. "Whatever you choose to do with it is up to you, but it's yours." Then he left. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my table for 2 days, like a ghost I hadn't decided to face yet. Then, one rainy morning, I made a cup of tea, sat by the window, and opened the journal. Entry 1. I lied to Olivia. Again. She asked me if I was okay today. I said I was fine, but I'm not. I'm crumbling. I don't know who I am when I'm not being adored. And Jenna, she doesn't adore me. She just mirrors what I want to see. Entry 3. Melissa deserves to know I'm her father, but I'm a coward. I'm afraid of what Olivia will say, not because she'll hurt me, but because she won't. She'll just walk away, and I don't think I could survive that. Entry 7. Olivia is smarter than all of us. She's just been quiet, and I've mistaken her silence for weakness. But I know, deep down, she's already moved on from me. I think that's what hurts the most. Final entry, dated 2 weeks before his death. If you're reading this, Liv, I'm sorry. Not for dying, I know we all go, but for making you feel invisible when you were the only real thing I ever had. I chose lies because they were easier than healing. You chose dignity. I hope wherever I am now I can watch you live in peace. Please forgive me. Or don't. Just know I always knew you were better than me. And I hated myself for it. I closed the journal slowly. The rain had stopped. My tea had gone cold. And I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because for the first time I felt like I had nothing left to carry. The weight wasn't mine anymore. A week later, I mailed the journal to Melissa. No note, no explanation. Just the truth, passed on, the way it should have been all along. 3 months passed. Winter was settling in. The lake behind my house had started to freeze, a sheet of glass forming over memories I had finally stopped trying to rescue. I had cleared the guest room, donated most of Mark's clothes, even took down the wedding photo I once pretended not to stare at. The past was no longer something I needed to organise. It was something I could let sit, undisturbed. Then came the email from Melissa. Subject: I read every page. He was broken, Olivia, but he saw the best parts of you. I don't want his legacy to be silence anymore. Let's build something different, together. And that's when the idea was born. We called it the Seat Project, a foundation for women who had been erased, in relationships, in business, in families. We hosted workshops, funded legal services for single mothers, created retreats for widows and betrayed wives to recover without shame. It started small, 1 room above a bookstore. Now it's global, because women everywhere have been left standing in the back of their own stories. And sometimes all they need is someone to hand them the microphone. A year later, I stood on a stage in front of 200 women, some in tears, some holding hands, all survivors. And I told them this: I used to be the woman they forgot to save a seat for. Now I build the tables and make sure every woman knows she belongs. Mark is no longer the last chapter in my book. He's a footnote. Melissa, she calls me her other mother, and sometimes, when we sit together in silence, I realise healing doesn't always come in forgiveness. Sometimes it comes in building what they try to destroy. I no longer wear the pearls he gave me. I wear a bracelet Melissa made, with a single word engraved: seen. Because I am. Finally. What would you have done in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.